Of all the prodigious duos throughout NBA history, from Magic and Kareem to Stockton and Malone to Jordan and Pippen, none have ever rubbed each other the wrong way like Shaq and Kobe. Their myriad accomplishments on the floor together in Los Angeles belied the tension between the two Hall of Famers, a disconnect that reached a breaking point not long after the Lakers' run as the NBA's premier team came to an end. And when the newly divorced ex-teammates played against one another for the first time on Christmas Day in 2004, their history and acrimony conspired to deliver one of the most memorable games in NBA history. By the summer of 2004, after 8 years as teammates, the relationship between Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant had gone from tumultuous to untenable. The two had soared to historic heights together during their indelible run in Los Angeles, carrying the Lakers to 3 championships in consecutive years and making it to the NBA Finals 4 times, but along the way, a feud had festered between LA's 2 brightest stars. And while they continued to deliver on the court, their personal relationship was decidedly fractured for much of their time together. O'Neal resented how his role on the offensive side, and his symbolic role as the team's alpha dog, diminished on account of Bryant's greatness, while Bryant bristled at what he once described as O'Neal's childlike selfishness and jealousy. Memorably, during the 2000-2001 campaign, just months after capturing their first NBA title together, things became so strained between the two that O'Neal requested a mid-season trade. That never materialized, of course, and the Lakers went on to take home 2 more championships, but it nevertheless evinced the incredible disparity between their on-court productivity and their off-court friction. And although they managed to keep that animosity mostly private for a couple of years, their feud spilled out into public again during the 2003-2004 season, which began only months after Bryant was arrested and charged with sexual assault in Colorado. O'Neal's dismissive remarks during training camp about an absent Bryant, who reported late due to his legal issues, precipitated an extended bout of media sparring between the two, one that culminated with Bryant skewering O'Neal in an explosive interview with Jim Gray on the eve of the season opener. Over the course of his conversation with Gray, Bryant criticized O'Neal's lack of professionalism, questioned his leadership ability, and lambasted him for his selfishness. He also pointedly dispelled the idea that Shaq was like a big brother to him. As Bryant put it, a big brother would have called to lend his support this summer. I heard absolutely nothing from him. Bryant's remarks enraged O'Neal, and the two nearly came to blows the following day. But while cooler heads eventually prevailed, it was clear that their days as a dynamic duo were numbered. And after the Lakers came up short of a championship for a second straight season, falling to the Detroit Pistons in 5 games in the NBA Finals, that was it. In the wake of their defeat, the Lakers decided not to bring back head coach Phil Jackson, a decision seemingly intended to placate Bryant, an impending free agent that the franchise was eager to retain and who wasn't exactly Jackson's biggest fan. In response, O'Neal, who had cultivated a much closer relationship with Jackson over the years and felt that Bryant had become the front office's puppet master, demanded a trade. And before long, the Lakers obliged him, trading O'Neal to the Miami Heat for Lamar Odom, Caron Butler, Brian Grant, and a first-round draft pick, a deal that dramatically altered the landscape of the NBA. And with that, the soap opera in LA officially reached its end. But while Lakers GM Mitch Kupchak expressed disappointment over trading the franchise icon and then 11-time All-Star, his mood brightened significantly the following day, when he announced a new 7-year, $136 million contract with Bryant. Still, even after being disentangled from one another, despite now playing for different teams in different conferences on opposite sides of the country, the animosity between Shaq and Kobe persisted. Not long after the trade, in fact, the beef between them was further inflamed when the LA Times published an excerpt of a police report in which Bryant, who was being interrogated in the wake of the rape allegations, accused O'Neal of paying up to $1 million in hush money to various women for, quote, situations like this. O'Neal quickly dismissed Bryant's claim as ridiculous, but not before dropping this barb. I'm not the one buying love. He's the one buying love. In any event, it was clear that separating the two hadn't squashed the bad blood between them, and the NBA was ready to capitalize on this incredible drama. When the league released its schedule for the 04-05 season, one game stood out from the rest. It was more of an event, really, and it demanded to be circled on the calendar. For the first time ever, the teammates turned rivals were going to square off against one another, and they were going to do it at the Staples Center on Christmas Day. Christmas Day games have been an NBA tradition for almost as long as the league has existed, and those contests, which tend to spotlight the league's most compelling rivalries or storylines, have been televised nationally since as far back as 1967. Today, those games are often as highly anticipated as the presents under the tree. Still, few Christmas Day games have ever generated as much anticipation as Heat vs. Lakers in 2004. Obviously, the prospect of watching Shaq and Kobe do battle was intoxicating in and of itself, but another factor that ratcheted up the excitement as Christmas Day approached was the undeniable reality that Miami had essentially transformed into what the Lakers had been for so many years. Led by a still dominant Shaq and an explosive sophomore guard named Dwayne Wade, the revamped Heat were too hot to handle, opening the 04-05 campaign with 4 straight wins to put the league on notice and settling into first place in the Eastern Conference for good 6 weeks into the season. They were a juggernaut, and their rapid ascent mirrored a dramatic downturn in Los Angeles. As electrifying as Bryant remained, the Shaq-sized hole in LA's lineup destabilized the Lakers, who struggled to stay above 500 amid their profound defensive woes. That schism between the ascendant Heat and the scuffling Lakers only added to the drama, and as the Yuletide showdown neared, O'Neal couldn't help but fan the flames of anticipation himself. 5 days before the game, Shaq publicly advised his old teammate to stay out of the lane come Christmas Day. As he eloquently put it, "If you've got a Corvette that runs into a brick wall, you know what's gonna happen. He's a Corvette, I'm a brick wall, so you know what's gonna happen." They say that Christmas is a time for forgiveness, for kindness, for love. But neither Shaq or Kobe seemed particularly consumed by the holiday spirit when the big day finally arrived. They didn't jabber or reminisce like old teammates do ahead of the game, and acknowledged one another with nothing more than a perfunctory fist bump prior to tip-off. And just like that, it was on. 12 seconds into the game, Bryant made a drive to the basket, only to have his first shot attempt rejected by Shaq. Bryant, however, struck back on the Lakers' very next possession, hitting a beautiful fadeaway over O'Neal. And Bryant kept on coming, dropping a total of 15 points and hitting 4 of 6 attempts from downtown in a tightly contested first quarter. When the halftime buzzer sounded, the Lakers had a slim 2-point edge thanks to Bryant's 20 points and a strong complimentary effort from Odom. For his part, Shaq had 11 points, 4 rebounds, and a pair of blocks at the break, but had also picked up a couple of fouls, including one on Bryant. In the third, Bryant came out guns blazing, going 5 for 8 from the field and adding a pair of assists to extend his team's lead to 4. But O'Neal and the Heat weren't going to let Kobe snap their 10-game winning streak without a fight. Shaq turned up in a big way in the fourth, leading his team with 9 points in the quarter and hauling in 5 rebounds to erase Miami's deficit. But as fate would have it, this epic showdown would wrap up without one of its main characters on the floor. With 2:15 remaining in the fourth, O'Neal fouled out, committing his 6th personal foul against none other than Kobe. And because this game wasn't dramatic enough already, the score was still tied when the buzzer sounded. The Heat and Lakers were headed to overtime to settle this burgeoning Christmas Day classic, which Shaq was going to have to watch play out from the bench. And he no doubt liked what he saw. After putting up 42 points in regulation, Bryant floundered in OT, missing a pair of shot attempts and committing a turnover that put Miami in the driver's seat. But after Wade and Eddie Jones each missed opportunities to make it a 2-possession game with less than a minute left, the Lakers got their shot to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. With less than 4 seconds on the clock, the Lakers had possession on the sideline, needing 2 points to send the game to double overtime or 3 points to win it. I bet you can guess who took the game-deciding shot.
And Jermaine Jones to inbound. Bryant gets doubles. Kobe Bryant.
With that miss from Bryant, who promptly stormed off the court, the Heat extended their winning streak to 11 games, tying a franchise record at the time, while O'Neal secured what was surely a gratifying personal victory. Incidentally, nearly 13.2 million viewers had tuned in to see which superstar would get the better of his nemesis, making Shaq vs. Kobe the most watched Christmas Day game of the 21st century. Afterward, Shaq, who racked up 24 points and 11 rebounds before fouling out, said he knew Bryant's buzzer beater wasn't gonna fall, attributing the miss to what he called Shaq O'Neal fate. But while the tightly contested affair could have further escalated the feud between Shaq and Kobe, it actually did the opposite. Following the game, O'Neal called the beef old news and said he was over it. Bryant did the same, shrugging off Shaq's brick wall remark as just pre-game hype and expressing his hope that this saga is behind them now. To that end, the second and final matchup between the Heat and Lakers that season was almost entirely devoid of drama, with the playoff-bound Heat easily defeating a Lakers team that would go on to miss the postseason for the first time in over a decade. And while their relationship ultimately remained a turbulent one over the years that followed, the Shaq and Kobe feud never captured the public imagination as intensely as it did on that unforgettable Christmas Day many years ago.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button.